A balance magnifier. This morning we talked about a balance magnifier. We've all met these individuals. They are the charismatic individuals who with their mere presence inspires, captivates, and makes all of us want to emulate our qualities to the best of our abilities. Balance magnifiers are individuals who seem to be balanced themselves and willing to help others, have their emotions under check, and who inspire all of us to do the best that we possibly can. But before we look at those magnifiers more closely, let's digress for a moment. Carl Jung, a psychoanalyst, talked about free association of thoughts. He had indicated that in our thinking process, all thoughts are free-floating, but corresponding from the last thought to the next. Our thinking process is not chaotic, where random thoughts just come to mind. Rather, one thought leads to another. Likewise, research studies have shown that each thought also has a corresponding emotion or sets of emotions that are attached to each thought. Let's look at an example. Suppose I'm driving down the road, mostly paying attention to my driving, listening to the radio, but feeling at peace. All of a sudden, a car that I've always wanted passes me by. I immediately see myself wishing I owned that car. Perhaps a corresponding emotion that I would be feeling would be wanting. In the next set of thoughts, perhaps I see that driver as being lucky. The corresponding emotion is then envy. As my thoughts center in on the car, perhaps I pretend to own the car and driving it. Emotions might be blissful. I start thinking about what it costs for me to have such a vehicle. I think about the different costs like the insurance and wonder if that might be too high. The corresponding emotion changes to fear. All of a sudden, it dawns on me that I have possibly not paid my current insurance bill. Emotions might be fear, panic, anxiety. I immediately call my significant other and ask if the insurance bill has been paid. Emotion, tense, anger, all are a part of what's interplaying in my mind. However, when I was told it was, corresponding emotion was relief and thankfulness that I was very fortunate. In a matter of a couple minutes, as you have seen, my thoughts and corresponding emotions went through a series of different phases that were all interrelated. Suppose we have 4 general thoughts and 4 corresponding emotions each minute. Each hour, we could see 60 times 4 per minute, a total of 240 thoughts and 240 emotions each hour. Since we are constantly thinking whether we are awake or in our sleep, we have in a day's time 24 hours, and when we multiply that by 240 thoughts and emotions, potentially each day we could have 5,760 thoughts with the corresponding 5,760 emotions. Now let's briefly talk about meditation. Meditation is a concentrated envisioning of sets of circumstances which we picture in our mind as probable positive outcomes. During meditation, we focus on those areas that we wish to do better or have a desire. But focus is the key word. During the times that we are not meditating, but undertaking tasks for work or family or pleasure, we are thinking. Whether we're daydreaming, listening, watching, participating, or undertaking tasks, we are thinking, and along with that comes corresponding emotions. In my discussion this morning, 2 very strong emotions came to mind. And those 2 emotions were guilt of the past and fear of the future. There's nothing wrong with having guilt. Time is slowed down in the third dimension. As a result, we can evaluate previous sets of circumstances or actions that might have turned out bad, which then would allow us to think on how to improve ourselves to the point that if we found ourselves in similar situations, we could choose a better course of action. It would be like watching a movie and changing the ending if we did not like the present version. Keep in mind the old cliche, if you haven't learned from your past mistakes, you're doomed to repeat them. Also, there's nothing wrong with having fear. Fear protects us in a violent third-dimensional world. Without fear, we would oftentimes be putting ourselves in grave danger, or not thinking through a situation, or being unaware that a course of action could lead to a worse problem. Having appropriate fear and guilt is not bad. What I'm referring to is having an inordinate amount. Usually with fear, we are overly concerned with dire consequences that would befall us in the future, even though it has not yet occurred. In our dimension, it is easy to fear dire consequences in the future rather than maintain or think about a positive outcome. Having an inordinate amount of guilt can be based upon past sets of circumstances that have been embarrassing, unwise, stupid, or resulted from poor choices in life. To summarize, we have many thoughts throughout each day, and each thought has a corresponding emotion. When we couple these thoughts with fear of the future and guilt from the past, we looked at 4 different kinds of individuals in this dimension. These 4 groups include emotionally dead, takers, givers, and balanced magnifiers. Let's look at each of the 4 types a little bit closer. Let's look at the emotionally dead. These are individuals who live in a world for themselves completely. These are individuals who only exist for the moment and neither care about the future or what they have done. These individuals perhaps have tremendous amount of fears, as well as having a tremendous amount of guilt. Surrounding the individual is a black curtain with very little light surrounding them. They are immobilized from undertaking any type of positive action that would better themselves, better their significant others, or society as a whole. Let's now look at our second group. Let's suppose a group of individuals have normal guilt of the past, but an inordinate amount of fear of the future. These are what are called takers, those who could more easily absorb another person's life energy. These individuals rely on others to feed them emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, etc. Let's now suppose a group of individuals have a normal fear of the future, but an inordinate amount of guilt in the past. These are the givers, who more easily allow other people to take their energy from them. Traditional religions can manifest a strong belief of guilt in order to live their life justly. And finally, there are the balanced magnifiers, those who have normal guilt of the past and normal fear of the future. They tend to be balanced emotionally, mentally, with good vision, spiritual, and empathic abilities. In my discussion this morning, I was reminded of the mirror theory and the law of attraction. If we see in others a quality we admire, or a bad vice we dislike, most likely what we see is a major part of us. As we look around at the people we associate with, the work we undertake, the family we live with, the recreation we enjoy, the attributes of people, task, sets of circumstances, energy, show us who and what we really are. This was a very interesting conversation this morning.